So I'd like to welcome to the stage our next speaker talking about scaling blockchain games, the fundamentals of that. It's Ivan Trancik from Superscale.
Welcome everyone to the growth track and to my talk. I was talking too much last couple days, first time for a long time on the actual conference, so bear with me. Before we start, I'd like to ask, like to find out who in the audience actually has launched an NFT or a blockchain app or game. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so like 3, 4-ish, I guess. How many of you guys intend to or looking into this space in the next year? Okay, another 5. And how many of you guys have a let's say mobile game or any kind of free-to-play game right now? Okay, cool. So I hope this will be interesting to all of you, and definitely looking forward to some questions and answers on this new market which is upon us. So I will talk about scaling blockchain games, the fundamentals, and how does it differ from, for example, what is similar and what is different compared to mobile or free-to-play gaming scaling. Welcome everyone. My name is Ivan. I'm a CEO founder of Superscale. We are a full funnel growth management platform, and we help games and blockchain apps to scale to their maximum potential. So we work with companies of all sizes, from successful one-man indie shows like Nimblebit up to EAs of the world. And the only kind of a criteria for us is where the game or app is now and where we believe it could be, and we help with the whole journey to the top. An example how for example a big game that we worked on ended up with, so we were able to get 10 extra million to the bottom line, which produces another 20 million in profitable spends per year by looking on each step of the funnel and finding pieces to optimize and bring better value. So fundamentals. Let's talk a bit about Web3. Where we at, where the market's going to be, or where some people think we're going to be, and some other people think it's going to be. So the interesting thing about blockchain market compared to, I don't know, VR, AR, or streaming, or some other, maybe some of them will call overhyped new gaming markets that I guess didn't follow through on their expectation, is that it's already pretty sizable market. We generated quite a bit of buzz, revenue, and interest. So it's no longer just a couple of crypto enthusiasts, crypto investors doing some shady things on shitcoins. But as you can see, we've already have 1.4 million active wallets every day interacting with games distributed apps. The growth was 100x compared to the previous year, and what we look at, I see parallels with the mobile platform, where you see that 49% transactions from all blockchain transactions came from gaming-related ones. So as you see on the mobile, 80% plus of revenue generated is also from games. It looks like the whole blockchain and NFT space will be again very heavily tilted towards gaming-related content and business. And obviously we have a couple of bigger launches or bigger games coming forward, like X Infinity and so on. But there's nothing that we expect this and following years. So this will be definitely, everyone expects that this year will be when blockchain apps actually enter gaming mass market and high quality products with AAA productions and with the blockchain infrastructure come into play. So how big this market going to be? This is a good question. Obviously, if you ask somebody, if you ask different people, they will tell you different numbers. I took 2 that I think is worth noting. So let's consider that the blockchain will be growing as much as mobile games were growing as a business when they were introduced. So by this logic, which again, it's something that I picked just to compare. By this logic, we would end up in 2024 about 12 billion market. So again, not let's say a massive chunk of the whole gaming ecosystem, but still something worth considering even in this case. If we to get some more bullish predictions, for example, Bloomberg, if we subtract the gaming part of the whole blockchain and NFT ecosystem, they expect to be somewhere around 160 billion in 2024. So the question is, obviously, we'll be closer to 160 billion or closer to 12 billion. You know, take your pick, take your guess. But I do believe that it's fair to say it will be a noteworthy part of the whole games industry, and you should definitely be on the lookout for that if your product or if your future business strategy involves in some way blockchain. So what is current, let's say, problem or the trillion-dollar question, as some of them will call? So we see companies with a blockchain background that trying to get into the space and already proven that they are able to attract crypto investors and blockchain community into games. But the next step for them is to really become the $100 billion market and business. They need to attract how they call Web 2 or traditional games audience. And this is obviously not as easy as it sounds, because if you try to play anything from Axie Infinity to other blockchain titles out there, you know that it's not easy or even understandable experience for casual players. At the same time, we see the gaming companies trying to figure out how their IPs and how their games could attract and become part of the blockchain ecosystem. So we see movements from both sides, obviously. And why it is hard? As we'll talk a bit about audience journeys and how big of a problem it is, and how to essentially understand this of a problem. The new dimensions of data that you will need to understand these journeys, and you didn't kind of have to think about those when scaling mobile or other games. And obviously, new needs for infrastructure to be able to make something out of this data. So ultimately, what you want to get is sort of growth loop, which, as you see, is a Web3 growth loop, which looks exactly as a Web2 growth loop or any other growth loop in free-to-play or game-as-a-service business. You need to analyze, optimize, scale, and rinse and repeat to reach your maximum potential. So, analyze. If we look at mobile games as a business, analyzing a mobile game is not, again, I wouldn't call it trivial by any means, and I'm doing this most of my life. And even though we have a lot of tools, apps, and pieces of ecosystem, you still need to, every studio needs to do a lot of work to essentially integrate all the UA-related data to attribution data, to store data, to essentially in-game data and so forth, to be able to understand how they are doing and what to do next. If we're talking Web3 apps, this part, the whole part that mobile gaming is concerned about, and it's not trivial, we're talking dozens of different data sources, it's augmented by what is called on-chain data, or essentially the data available in a blockchain itself, which is, again, for anyone or to various degrees publicly available to any developer, publisher, or analyst that would like to see what kind of a transaction different wallets or users are doing with other apps and so forth. And it's very valuable to think about when you're building out your business model or business strategy to grow in this space. But again, it's another layer of complexity that you need to put in and merge with your own in-game data and UA data and so forth and so on. And on top of that, obviously, Web3, it has still web in its name. And for example, compared to mobile, you are able to, and many companies do, to collect, for example, email addresses and a bunch of other data because they have direct relationships with their customers, such as e-shops or e-commerce companies, compared to mobile developers, where it's still between Apple and Google to own this data and to do this. lifecycle management of them. So again, completely new dimensions of data and something an order of magnitude more complex than we've been used to so far, without any tools right now, or very little tools available to help you with that. So you have all the data from all parts of our business. Great, what now? You need to optimize. So if you're looking at a mobile game or free-to-play game as a business optimization problem, you usually would like to look at it as a form of a funnel or a player journey where you would go through acquisition, conversion, activation, retention, monetization, and then churn, or when the player stops playing, and try to understand what kind of an actions you are able to do to improve each part of the funnel. And this would you essentially need to do all the time, and how quickly are you able to scale, and how high depends how good, how well optimized is your funnel, even before you start or think about spending some user acquisition marketing money at scale. And again, this is not something I would consider trivial or simple, even for mobile or Web2 games. But still, ultimately, you're attracting the same audience. It's a free-to-play players that may differ from their background, from their spending habits, and so forth. But first of all, they want to play the game. And depending on how much time or money they are available, this is how they will progress through it, but they want to play your game. In blockchain, actually, it's not even the case. So obviously, and right now, as you can see, like last updates from Axie Infinity and so on, where they understand that they need to attract the gamers and so on, they try to provide journeys for free-to-play players as well. But in blockchain games, you have important audiences or part of the ecosystem who wants to interact with the game that is not interesting in the game itself at all. So let's take a look at investors or crypto investors, which are people who are able to spend 7 figures, 8 figures on a single game without even starting it. Why? Because if they believe that the game as an ecosystem will grow, they're able to buy nodes, NFTs, tokens, even before the game starts, if they believe that it's rare enough and will appreciate in value. But these people will essentially never even have to start a game. They just look at it as another asset in their portfolio. Interesting part is also play to earn players, where ultimately what Axie Infinity prove, again, these are not the players that are interested in the game or game mechanic itself. They only they are interesting that it's a source of income compared to another full-time job, which could be even worse than just playing and grinding 12 hours a day of a computer game. So for blockchain games, thinking about how investor thinks when he wants to buy something in a game, it's completely different, and there are many different ways what investor can do, can go about and interact with the game ecosystem. Ultimately, you need a healthy portion of every audience which is out there, and it has a completely different journeys that you need to be personalized and catered to if you want to scale your blockchain app. So this is important to note. If you start advertising just nice gameplay pictures to investors or blockchain players, that will probably not work. So third is scale, which again, you need to think about in terms of blockchain apps, that it's scaling within different audiences based on the different data that needs to work together, and you need to have a healthy portion on all of them, depending on obviously how your game is set up. But you cannot skip your even in the most successful blockchain games like Axie Infinity, they cannot skip the mass market gamers. So they try to attract these players and provide them a journey that they deserve. And traditional games, if they want to go truly blockchain, they need to have a journey and the value proposition for each of other audiences that would interact with the blockchain app as an ecosystem, and then you would be able to scale properly. So ultimately, this is what I believe it's the biggest challenge and question, besides just launching or dropping a bunch of NFT tokens, how to essentially make it as a sustainable business. You will need to do this growth loop, analyze, optimize, and scale for every single audience with the data which tells you about their preferences and intentions to do so. So, thank you. That was Web3 Fundamentals. I'm happy for your questions.
Yes, so thank you very much, Ivan. Thank you. That's fascinating, and definitely I know we've got a lot of people here interested, blockchain curious, as the people here. Does anyone have any questions for Ivan about the Web3 and what he said about scaling games? I'll start. Actually, I've got a question for you.
Yep.
You mentioned the battlegrounds in
Yep.
one of your early slides there. Is one of the battlegrounds that wasn't mentioned there, but is implicit in what we have to do? Some resistance in traditional game players to the editing space, and also with some developers who haven't, who resist getting on board. What's our education process there? How do we fight that battle?
That is again a super interesting topic and super valuable for somebody who properly solves it. Like there's a lot of obvious resistance for the traditional gamers because they're usually very, very vocal about any change ever. They try to do an update for a game which has a community. They will hate it no matter what, and just later on they may used to it. It's absolutely about still. I consider it as a journey, as an education. So coming from the personal experience. When I'm a former Counter-Strike player, I bought when they dropped the skin economy, I bought my first knife for 500 euros in like 2015, 16-ish, or 7 years ago. And I was considered insane. And by the way, to my date, it was the best in-app purchase ever because every time I whipped it out in a 1v5 clutch situation, you can see it in your headphones. What? You have this skin? Wow, it's great. Oh, I would love to do this. So validation all the time, best purchase ever. But actually, when I look at it, and then daughter was born and stuff like that, when I look at the value in like 5 years, I could sell it for 2,500 euros or something. Yeah. So I got 5x on my stupid purchase of a worthless item 5 years ago. But the problem is that so we know that it works, and people such as me and many others are able to buy something which has just very, very narrow value for most of the population and appreciating value. But the problem with the Steam ecosystem, for example, it's not because it's not blockchain. I can convert it to dollars, but it's just Steam dollars, and I can buy only some more Steam games. And
right, so it's locked into that economy.
So I absolutely personally believe that having that as a blockchain game would give me better liquidity for the asset. And when I stop playing Counter-Strike because I don't have time anymore, but I could invest into some other games, that's great value. But how to explain it to players? It's apparently it's very hard, and Ubisoft tries and fails. Big companies tries and fails. So it will be definitely a journey. But when mobile came, it was the same.
Right, exactly. It's the same journey that like free to play is on. And you said that in the course of last year, 99 times more people invested in NFTs. Is that right? Was that one of yours?
Yeah. So the growth between 20 to 21 was 100x. Right. So obviously, if you extrapolate it, there'll be more money than all economies in the world, but so the growth probably won't be 100x this year, but still, it's a growing ecosystem, and anywhere between 12 to 160 billion. I think your guess is right, but yeah, I think Web3 is here to stay, such as mobile, and think about the strategy. How does it fit into every studio's business model? It's the right thing to do.
Perfect, thank you. I think we're just getting set up. Are you ready to join us? Perfect. In that case, a round of applause. Thank you very much for taking super scale.